Well, clearly, Cyber Monday remains hugely popular, but there has been a growing backlash against the online shopping day in the form of the Buy Nothing movement. Well, for more on that, I'm joined live from Toronto by Markus Giesler. He's an associate professor of marketing at the Schulich School of Business at York University in Toronto. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So as we look at the early Black Friday and Cyber Monday results, are people buying less or more or just differently?
I think consumers are shopping differently increasingly because of the important role of online sales and online consumption. What is also changing is that we go to stores increasingly not to actually make transactions, but to enjoy experiences. And so whereas Black Friday would be about the experience, I think Cyber Monday is increasingly about closing the deal and to actually buy something that we would have enjoyed to sort of inspect or investigate in the store on Friday.
And we're certainly seeing Black Friday catch on in other countries. And it's so much easier to just swipe or click now to make purchases. But then obviously you have the debt headache that comes when those credit card bills are due. So we know that revolving credit card debt in the US stands at about $444 billion, according to NerdWallet. Is there any concern that by exporting Black Friday, you're exporting some of perhaps these poor financial habits along with it?
They certainly are getting exported along with the consumption ritual. I mean, let's face it, shopping is fun, but shopping also involves responsible decision-making. But as consumers are increasingly overspending, I think the tendency to overspend is becoming a global problem, and that is something that gets exported along with the fun from the United States.
And that's one of the reasons that we're seeing this rise in conscious consumerism. We're seeing that with movements like Buy Nothing Day. Tell us more about that movement and its potential staying power.
The Buy Nothing movement is essentially a critique of consumer culture and consumerism and growing tendency to define ourselves and who we are through what we own. It is an attempt to sort of go back to defining ourselves through who we are in terms of social relationships, and it is a romantic critique of the capitalist marketplace. So increasingly, especially among younger consumers, we can see that many of them are opting out quite intentionally and not buying as much as they would have otherwise done. So this is still a minority phenomenon, but it is still something that is becoming increasingly relevant to consumers all over the Western Hemisphere.
And in terms of some alternatives, there are things like handmade goods, experiences, as you mentioned. How popular are some of these alternatives to traditional consumerism?
These alternative choices are often understood to be more authentic, more genuine. They're understood to be warmer, raise a sense of social community and connection, whereas then the conventional marketplace is often portrayed as cold and isolating, alienating. So we have to keep in mind that Buy Nothing doesn't necessarily mean consuming nothing. It just means alternative modes of social exchange, for instance, through donations and gift giving.
Now, we are seeing, obviously, Amazon at the forefront when you think of sort of that panic to buy things. And in France, they're having Block Friday protests against Amazon as the government seeks to crack down on Black Friday sales-related advertising and overconsumption. What are the expectations as to perhaps the fallout from that?
Well, the fallout from that is that consumers might potentially sort of understand the role of big retailers, online retailers such as Amazon negatively, and then turning to alternatives such as Etsy. With Etsy, we see an online retailer who has sort of embraced the buy nothing tendencies and feelings that go along with the idea of not shopping or making more sort of authentic choices.
And along with, of course, every online purchase, you factor in things like the carbon footprint from delivery, tons of packaging. What do you think are the biggest concerns when you correlate some of these shopping surges and the environment?
I think the biggest concern, especially in online retail, is that the carbon footprint of online retail is massive. And consumers are becoming increasingly aware of this and turning, amongst other things, to local alternatives. So community-supported agriculture, local shopping, supporting one's local retailer. All of these are things consumers do to circumvent these massive retailers and perhaps also then help reduce their own carbon footprint.
And it's interesting because on the one hand, you have some of these consumers who are really just responding to the buying frenzy. And then you have other consumers who plan all year because this is the one time they can really afford some of these traditionally high-priced items at a discount. Would you say that there are any sort of benefits to these shopping bonanzas?
The benefit is on the individual level that it's fun to look for a great deal. Deal hunting is a legitimate practice of fun seeking and entertainment. On the other hand, it's not always true that deals during this time of year are actually as lucrative as one might hope. So from a purely economic standpoint, I think other days throughout the year might even be better for consumers to go to the stores or to go online to make a good deal. However, this is not strictly all about rational economic decision making and necessarily the ambition to get the best price. A lot of this is about seeking experiences and enjoying how products and brands are presented in stores and malls, online, and to sort of take part in this aspect of consumption that is increasingly becoming important, customer experience design.
Well, thank you so much. Markus Giesler there, Associate Professor of Marketing at the Schulich School of Business at York University in Toronto.